Welcome to davidfouad.com. I'm your knowledgeable Winnipeg realtor. Today I'm going to talk to you about water. As living creatures, water is our source of life. For a house, water is its biggest enemy. I'm going to share with you 4 steps you need to take this fall to prevent water damage. This is the right time to be addressing them. So let's start with the first one, which is cleaning your gutters. The purpose of gutters is to collect water and drain it away from the house. There's no point having good gutters if they don't have proper drainage through the downspout, and if the water gets close to the foundation, it's not doing its proper job of draining away from the house. So the most important thing is to have your gutters cleaned. If you have a bungalow, meaning a 1-story, it's relatively easy for you to do them yourselves with a basic ladder. But if you have a 2-story or a 2.5-story, it's best to hire somebody to come and clean them. A lot of companies are doing it, a lot of handymen, a lot of people that are looking for extra work that have seasonal work during the summer. They'll often clean gutters for you. And what gutters can do if they're clogged is they collect all that debris like the leaves and the branches and dirt, and they can basically break down and turn into soil. And when that happens, they retain moisture. So if your gutters aren't clearing water properly as of now in the fall, they can freeze up, and then what happens is as snow falls and melts throughout the winter, because of course you can have a very sunny day that's still cold and the roof can allow for melting, and if it's not draining you can end up with ice damming. That's a whole other video that I can talk to you about in the future. So clear your gutters. I'm going to share with you next a story about a house that I believe was caused by uncleared gutters, like damage. And what ended up happening was this house had a tree that was planted for whatever reason very close to the foundation. In fact, it was about 2 feet away from the basement wall. And this tree grew and grew and it expanded, and now the house started to lean on the roof itself and bend the gutters and start to bend and crack the roof. And I thought, well, why would somebody plant such a big elm tree so close to the house? But then when I noticed, the gutters were completely clogged and there were branches and trees growing out of them. And so what I think happened was, with the clogged gutters, some stuff flew away, meaning a branch that was growing. It was probably from an elm tree that was neighboring to the house itself. Anyway, for whatever reason, this seed was planted very close to the foundation, and probably as it started to grow, the homeowner thought, well, it's not so bad, it's about 4 feet away from the house. But now the trunk is huge and it's expanded and it's grown wider and started to grow closer to the house. Went into the basement, and what I saw were channels of broken concrete throughout the basement floor. And it looked like what we would have seen as kids on Bugs Bunny, you know, when he burrows through the ground. It looked like that, but with concrete. And there was about 3 or 4 channels of these roots. You couldn't see the roots, but you can see the broken up concrete. So what I'm saying is, yes, that's an extreme, but I've seen what gutters can do if they're not cleared. And I've seen them allow for water to get through the walls. I've seen ice damming, as I mentioned. I've seen roof leaks caused by gutters not being cleared. The second thing I recommend that you do is to make sure that all the window wells are clear of debris and leaves and junk, and if they are, to make sure that they're also deep enough to allow for proper drainage of the window well water. So that's the second one. The third thing I recommend that you do is to make sure that the soil is properly graded. And what I mean is that the ground around the perimeter of the house is sloped to go away from the house. As we experience different temperature changes, different moisture changes in the soil, it allows for the soil to expand and contract. And over time, if we do not address these changes, we can end up with soil that bends and curves into the house foundation, and that's a way to let water to come into your house. Now, not all houses have soil all the way around. Some have concrete paths buttoned up right to the foundation. I recommend that you try to have soil at least a foot, ideally 2 feet, along the whole perimeter of the house. in order to allow for proper drainage. Because you can imagine if you have a concrete path, and let's say that concrete path isn't graded properly, let's say it's tilted in, it's going to allow the water to sheet right through into the basement foundation. So that's number 3. Number 4, this one is often overlooked. It's important for you to take off the black hose that's attached to the sump pump drain. Now the sump pump, for those of you who don't know, it collects water from the foundation of the house in a big drum, and then as the water elevates in this drum, this valve is hit, it turns on this electric motor, and it pumps the water outside the house. And so these sump pumps are subject to a lot of stress in the wetter months, but in the winter what ends up happening is if people leave the hoses on, the pump can perpetually be turning and running, and the hose could be frozen in the winter because the hose holds water, and if the hose is not drained properly before the freeze, it causes a blockage and the motor can run and burn out, and then in the spring you can end up with a sump pump that has a busted motor and end up with a flood in your basement. That is your Fouad for Thought today. If you'd like to connect with me directly, contact me at sales@davidfouad.com. You can follow me, of course, on all social media sites. Make sure to like my Facebook page and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.